exactly what I'm allowed to say about it, but as of this moment, we can announce that there will be a Gravity Falls graphic novel. A Gravity Falls graphic novel? What will be in it? Will it be canon?
Summon the graphic novel!
Schmebulock is a talkative guy. He wrote a book that you should buy.
Gravity Falls Lost Legends, for all new adventures coming to a store.
This July will mark the 5-year anniversary since the release of Gravity Falls Lost Legends. I still remember that summer so well. I was still pretty new to Gravity Falls at the time, and from the day Alex Hirsch revealed the book at D23 until its release, I was just beyond excited and looking forward to what would be in store. Theorizing and following along to Lost Legends related events and discussions was also to this day the closest I've ever gotten to experiencing what it was like to be a Gravity Falls fan back when the show was still airing, which is something I still hold near and dear. And though I have my personal gripes with the book in various areas, I do still really love it and think it's one of the best Gravity Falls books ever published. So, as we near July, I thought I'd try and see if I can get some more information about the book and perhaps find new ways to celebrate the occasion. Maybe even getting to talk to someone who worked on it. Now, that's an easier said than done thing because option 1 of course is Alex Hirsch, and well, I don't think DMing him questions about this would be the best idea, and he seldom does respond to basic questions unless it's perhaps something a bit unique in it, in a sense. Beyond Alex, most people who worked on the book are also out of the league given many were comic book illustrators who probably only had one page of contribution while others like Dana Terrace are busy with stuff like, well, you know. But when I set out to try and get some information about the behind-the-scenes aspects of Lost Legends, there really was only one person I wanted to talk to. See, when Lost Legends was released, Alex did a thread thanking all the artists who contributed to the book, and among the seasoned comic book illustrators and GF crew members, there were a few names that the fandom probably knew really well. Prior to even the D23 announcement of the book, Alex had tweeted out asking people to send him examples of works of art from various fan artists. From these, he picked a bunch of artists from the fandom to contribute to the book. One of these artists was Kiki-Kit. Longtime fans will know that name instantly as Kiki's art is some of the most prolific and most widespread GF art out there. She's made a ton of art on many platforms and has a style that's instantly recognizable. She's contributed to many GF fan projects as well that even more fans have seen. If you ever watched one of those old school Gravity Falls multi-artist project videos back in the day, chances are she was part of it. Read a Gravity Falls fanzine? Kiki-Kit probably had art in it too. Did you play the Grunkle dating sim back in 2018? Well, she made the sprite art of the characters in it. Needless to say, Kiki-Kit was a major part of the Gravity Falls fandom, and her being part of the book was a truly deserving achievement for an artist of that degree. In Lost Legends, she was the illustrator for the story Don't Dimension It. Given it's the story that I'm personally, conflicted on to say the least, I figured it would be great to see what her thoughts on that story specifically are. She's still somewhat active on Twitter, so I sent her a DM asking if she'd be down to answer a few questions. After a few days, she responded. I asked her 6 main questions and also got some close friends who are fans of her work to send some too. Here's what we talked about. How did you get involved with Lost Legends, and how involved with the book were you? I remember way back when Alex had made a tweet asking everyone who their favorite fan artists were, and he had specifically asked for comic artists. I wasn't on Twitter at the time, but I know a few people had put my name in there. I wasn't really expecting much to be honest, but about a month or so later, I received a DM on Tumblr asking if I wanted to be part of a Gravity Falls anthology, and I screamed. Were you aware of the other stories in it beforehand, but the ones you worked on and others, or did you get sent prompts or rough ideas by which to base your work for it off? Nope, I didn't know anything about anything before I received the scripts several months later. All I knew was that there were at least going to be other comics alongside mine. Were you aware of any stories or ideas that didn't make it into the book that you know of? This can include whole stories that never made it in, or just ideas or cut parts from stories like a cutscene from Don't Dimension It. The only story I knew of before the comic came out was my own, and I'm pretty sure that the script I had been given had already been through the ringer, so aside from a couple of shortened lines thanks to comic restraints, not much changed script-wise. In relation to question 3, would you be willing to share anything from your work on LL that would be okay to be made public now? like behind the scenes stuff that perhaps was not in the BNN version of it. BNN being the Barnes & Noble's exclusive version that had 16 extra pages in it, by the way. Before there was Stanbell, there was a hideous Akira blob Mabel. She lives only in my nightmares. I actually had to look up what Akira blob was, and oh my god, if that is something that Kiki-kit was planning on making for Lost Legends, I am so glad we have not seen what it was. Because Akira blob Mabel, oh my god. There's gonna be fan art of that now that this video is coming out. I just know it. Tumblr's gonna have a field day. Okay, Tumblr, how do you feel the story you worked on, Don't Dimension It, tackled Mabel's character, given at the time Lost Legends came out, Mabel's reputation in the fandom was in a weird place? And did you find the story to be fitting or out of the ordinary for Gravity Falls in terms of approach and execution? Basically, did you feel it was a Gravity Falls-like story or more so leaning in terms of fan service or not too GF-like? This was a question I really wanted to ask, mainly out of my own personal interest in knowing more about the choices in terms of why the Mabel arc was done the way it was in Lost Legends, and Kiki gave a really interesting response. I was in the group that felt like Mabel was a bit too selfish in the show. I still enjoyed her character and loved her a lot, but I was hoping for an apology from her by the time the show ended. I knew that the story I was drawing was going to be divisive among the fandom, and I had already accepted the fact that there was going to be people who really didn't like my story. But I liked it. I wouldn't have said that Mabel caused the whole of Weirdmageddon, but otherwise felt like the story was pretty solid and a nice little end to Mabel's character. Honestly, as the years have passed since the book came out and my take on the Mabel situation has matured as I have as well, I agree in a lot of ways with what she said. There was definitely room for a story that corrected Mabel's character in ways, but I also feel like the story went too far in making her out to be the cause of Weirdmageddon. It was a strange approach that the story took, to be honest, but I'm glad we both agree on it while still enjoying the book. And finally, overall, looking back on it, do you feel Lost Legends still holds up well as a Gravity Falls book, or do you think the book could have done a better job in either storytelling or what stories it focused on? If the latter, or even if you got any, what stories would you have wanted to see be told in Lost Legends, or have done differently if you were the writer? I still really love the book a lot, but maybe I'm a bit biased. If I was to change anything about it, I would have really loved a story dedicated to one of Stand & Ford's seafaring adventures, or at least some sort of future story set a few years forward, but I'm otherwise happy with what we got. I'd be even happier if the comics had continued though, like those IDW MLP comics. That would be nice. But alas, I doubt it. So agree on that, honestly. It would have been great to see a Stand & Ford story or something in the future. Though I personally would have loved to see a Wendy story or maybe a Mabel and Ford bonding story more so. It's just one of those fan hopes I had that never did transpire, I guess. Eh. Now for some extra questions I asked Kiki that came from friends of mine who I mentioned this to. First off, a bonus question I asked her. Are you still in touch with Alex or any Lost Legends contributors? And considering the Owl House references that were in the book, did you know or find out anything about the show back then that you got to be early in the know of? No, I haven't really spoken at all to Alex since the comic release, and I never really got the chance to talk to anyone else involved in the comic outside of the editor Eric. The burnout I was left with afterwards made it hard to reach out, and that coupled with my already bad social anxiety kinda didn't do me any favors. I relate to that so much, honestly. As it stands, the comic is but a star on my resume, and a large part of my heart. Maybe Alex remembers me, and maybe someday I'll get to work with him again. Who knows? As far as the Owl House goes, I only knew about some issues Dana was having with the show's opener at the time, from what Alex told me. She really fought for that nice fly-through shot. Any other information I knew beforehand had nothing to do with the comic and more so with I have friends that work for Disney and did a little bit of stuff for the show. Well. What was the experience like being asked or approached for helping with the comic, and how did you go about planning the pages? Like I said, when I got the message, I screamed. I was excited for weeks, but I didn't actually get the script until I think August or September, that being August or September 2017. Drawing a comic from a script is pretty straightforward. Each panel is given a brief description and dialogue if needed. From there, all I had to do then was be aware of the flow of how someone reads it. It's sort of like a zigzag down the page. Start from the left, work your way to the right, and so on. Screen direction and dialogue bubble placement help a lot in getting it to read nicely. Personally, I feel like I still have a long way to go in my comic drawing abilities, but I think I did pretty well for someone who's still fairly new to it. What I find interesting about this answer is that Kiki-kit mentions August or September as the time when she got the script, and this would be August or September 2017, so almost a year before Lost Legends came out, which is actually kind of surprising as this shows that the book was already written out by the time of the end of that summer, which means that when Alex revealed Lost Legends at D23, he pretty much had already finished most of the book by that point. So I guess most of the year-long wait that we had then was mainly the artwork going on for the story and the illustrations being completed. So I guess that's an interesting insight to learn, that Lost Legends was already pretty much finished by the time the announcement came out. This one's more GF fandom related, given at the time LL came out, there was also the Grunkle dating sim. How did you get involved with the game, and how did you come up with the sprite art designs? Oh my god. Okay, so funny thing is that the time I worked on the comic ended up being my time on the dating sim. Sova Knight was the one who organized the whole thing, and she came to me asking if I wanted to work on the sprites, which I enthusiastically said yes. Once the general story events were laid out, we all started brainstorming what it was that we wanted the boys to be wearing. Really, more specifically, what Stan would be wearing. I'm pretty sure his blue shirt, white pants combo was mostly inspired by his blue Hawaiian white pants Veka outfit from an episode in S1, specifically Boss Mabel. And everyone was really digging the biker jacket a lot. We were going nuts. Stan's basic outfit was the hardest to get down, honestly. Every other outfit was super easy to figure out, but it was all a group effort. In the end, I designed the sprites before the comic, and they were the first things I finished afterwards. And that basically was everything. I want to give a huge thank you to Kiki-kit for taking the time to answer all the questions I had. She was very insightful and shared a lot about the behind-the-scenes aspects of Lost Legends. She was super enthusiastic about her work on the book too, which I truly respected, and it really reminded me personally about the excitement I had then for the book, which I guess I've kind of forgotten about over the years. I was obsessed then, and spent each month patiently waiting and checking on Alex, Dana, and other known Lost Legends members' socials to see any glimpses of what would be in the book. It was how I got my start in the fandom beyond just the small niche of GF Amino that I had spent most of my first year as a fan in. It was how I first found out about the shows like The Owl House and Amphibia when Dana and Matt announced them, given I'd been following them for a while by then. I have such fond memories of that time. Yeah, there were downsides of that time in many ways, but I do still miss it. And Lost Legends was the real drive and, in turn, conclusion upon its release of that whole time. It's a time of my life I will truly never forget, and it was great to learn a bit more about the book that now rests on my shelf, from someone who worked on it. I can't believe it's almost been 5 years since then. But with that said, that's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching, and bye!